Today we have a very special guest joining us today. He's the former Ancient Aliens TV host for Tucson, Arizona, as well as the leading UFO investigator in Phoenix, Arizona. He runs a Facebook Live show called Petroglyphs in the Sky. I would call him the king of the petroglyphs and one of the best UFO hunters in the United States.
Jeff Woolwine, the first person to do this.
What you choose to believe about Jeff Woolwine and his petroglyph theories is entirely up to you. And whether he's a madman or a genius, I guess no one can say. What we can say is that ancient art is riddled with images of strange beings, wheels of fire, and flying shields in the sky.
To the spiral topic, you said like some people say that it was for water, and then other people might think that it's like emergent.
That's correct, yeah.
Or a vortex.
Yeah, like a vortex, yeah.
Please give a nice insertion welcome to our special guest, Jeff Woolwine.
Thank you, and welcome back to the Petroglyphs in the Sky Ultimate UFO Show. And welcome, Sky Watchers. Glad that you're here. And we have a great show for you tonight. And, I found this, to get into the show, a little bit about the show, I found this one video, like, maybe about a year or two ago. And it's this creature-looking thing, and it's going over like the ocean. It's going over the water. And I believe it's the Pacific Ocean. And these guys are like, the people in the boat are freaking out. They're screaming, "What is it? It's green!" I love it. I love it when people see these things for the first time because they freak out, dude. It's totally cool. I mean, I freaked out too when I first saw these things also. And so yeah, we got that. And we're going to talk about some petroglyphs, how to interpret the petroglyphs. And, don't forget to share the video, like the video, find me on Facebook, and So yeah, this is gonna be a great show tonight. Don't have a lot of time, so let's get right to it. So these petroglyphs here that I found, I wasn't physically there to see them, but I found them on the internet. I thought they were pretty cool, and so I thought I'd like to share them with you today. So let's take a look at this one. So here are the entities. So these petroglyphs here are talking about, they're prehistoric photographs, if you will. And they're not talking about spaceships, they're not talking about crafts, but they're talking about living beings. Now in 2005, I was the first one to prove this, not only match the petroglyphs that are carved around Phoenix, Arizona, and also to the Phoenix lights, but I also matched them to the things in the sky, aka UFOs to us. But to the Native Americans back then, they called them spirits of the earth and sky. Now, what they're trying to tell us is these things like to morph. They like to shape shift. And that's what is portraying in these petroglyphs. Not only do we see them in the sky today, they were also recorded. These are prehistoric photographs of sightings at least 1,000 years ago, sometimes over 1,000 years. And one way to interpret these petroglyphs is take a look at this one here. So this one here we have, so over here on the top right, let's examine the top right. Okay, so we have this squiggly looking entity with this worm or this snake. Now see how he's coming out of this crack to the right? Now that crack is a doorway. Now I'm sure that there's other spirals, or there's other petroglyphs depicting spirals, and spirals represent doorways for these spirits, for these aka UFOs that we see in the skies today. Not necessarily nuts and bolts technology craft, but another living being, another life form. And I brought this up in 2005 when I was doing the pilot for the UFO 100 show, and then later did the show on the History Channel in 2007. I brought this attention to the UFO community that not all UFOs are spaceship crafts. But I think what the majority of the people are seeing in the skies today are living beings, living entities. If you see 5 lights out there, for instance, you see 5 orange amber lights, it's not a cloaked ship, it's not a craft, it's not a little guy inside this technology. Each light is a living being, is the being itself. So you see 5 lights in the sky, you're seeing 5 living beings in the sky. Same exactly when you see these things in the daytime, whether they're orbs, whether they're like red looking things, white looking things, black looking things, things that shapeshift in the sky, that kind of resemble something that you might familiar yourself with, but then again it kind of doesn't. It kind of boggles your mind. Okay, that I believe is what we really should be looking for here is, not spaceships. Granted, there could be spaceships out there, don't get me wrong. I have seen some things out there that could technically be called a craft. Okay, but what I'm saying here is not only crafts are here, but another living entity in the sky. Okay, and that's what these petroglyphs are depicting. So to the upper right here, we see this worm-looking thing coming out of this cracked doorway. All right, and this is an entity. This is what we're seeing in the sky. Much like in Mexico when we're examining Quetzalcoatl, the flying serpent. Well, that's basically what this entity is showing. Now, actually, let's zoom in on this thing here a little bit. Yes, this is a spiral. This is a spiral. Let's look at this. Let's examine this more. You see this? This is a spiral. And where is he going? He's going into the crack. Okay, he's going into the doorway. All right, so this spiral is telling us that over here to the right, the crack is the doorway for these spirit beings. You see that? You see how the spiral is, when the spiral goes clockwise, okay, it's a doorway in. When a spiral is going counterclockwise, it's a doorway out. So here on this petroglyph panel, we see a spiral going clockwise, meaning going in, and it's going into it's connected, it's going into the crack over here to the right of it. You see that? So that crack is the doorway for these spirits to be coming and going from. Now up top here we have what looks like, what a lot of people like to consider, what a lot of people like to talk about are lizard men. Okay, and some of the interpretations out here, especially around in Phoenix, Arizona, the Valley of the Sun, one of the stories here is when the Hohokam first arrived here, the first Native Americans first arrived in Phoenix, they didn't know how to live. So these spirits, these entities came up out of the sand world, came up out of the ground, came down from the sky, came out of the ground, and taught these people how to live. And some of them could represent, you know, some say the lizard people. And this is the reason why we see these tails on this petroglyph here. Now sometimes these lizard people has a dot in its belly. Okay, and that dot actually is what the orbs that we see in the sky today. So that orb is shape-shifting into a man. Now here, this petroglyph does not show a dot. It just shows what could be interpreted as a lizard man because he has a tail. So, and he looks like, you see that crack there? See the crack right there? See that crack? So it could be he's coming out of that crack there. He's coming out of that doorway. Over here, these T circles, see this now here, now look at that, see that? So let's look at this a little bit closer here. Let's examine this petroglyph a little bit further. Okay, so now let's look at it this way. What if, okay? What if what this petroglyph panel is trying to tell us? Let's look at this now. So we have what looks like a lizard man to the left, but his head, look at his head, dude. See how it's not a spiral, it's not connected like a spiral should be, like what we see above him. It's like rings upon a ring, upon a ring, upon a ring, upon a ring. So that is telling me that this, what those rings are, this is the orb. Sometimes, I don't know, those of you who have seen the Phoenix lights, those of you who have seen really these UFOs at nighttime, these orange ember lights, you know, sometimes they pulsate, right? Sometimes their plasma generates like this type of energy, right? And I believe that's what this is depicting here. It's depicting that it's like it's throbbing, it's pulsating, it's changing colors, right? And then look what else it's doing. It's changing into a man. Okay, so it's got the head of an orb or light pulsating in the sky, and then on the bottom it's morphing. It's an anthropomorph. That's what the archaeologist likes to call these things, call these spirits, anthropomorphs, because these things are shape-shifting. And that's exactly what this petroglyph is depicting. It's depicting this light, right? And it's turning into what could be a lizard man. Now what if the artist is trying to say, as it is ascending, as it's coming out of the doorway and into the sky, it's looking like this. See? Now he's a full man. He's a full apparition. He's a full entity man. He's not quite human, but he's an entity. He's a spirit who has came through a doorway from the ground that was once a light or maybe an orb pulsating in the sky, and he was morphing. He was changing into this, what we now know today as so-called, quote-unquote, lizard man. See that? Now we have we have another circle and a spot and another pulsating there, but and oh my gosh, look at this. Okay, look at the bottom left of that. Let's blow this up a little bit further. Let's examine that. Look at that. You see there's like a guy there to the bottom left. You see that? So, and that's a human. That's a regular man. He doesn't have a tail. You can tell. So this thing in the sky was huge. Okay? This thing in the sky, what they were seeing, and this entity, and look at the bottom there. See that bottom crack there? That could be the doorway also. But the spiral above him is oriented to the right. This is how we can determine the petroglyphs. This is how we can interpret the petroglyphs that are carved on the rocks. Because you have to use an open mind. Not only do you, I've seen these things on firsthand. I've done this for 20 years. Okay, I wrote a book on the petroglyphs. In the beginning of the show, you see me talking to a shaman Native American. He's talking about spirals. Well, he taught me a whole lot of other stuff while I was on South Mountain also. And I went out there and I actually verified it. Okay, I verified it, and I watched that sacred mountain for 3 years. All right, and I saw some crazy things coming and going from that mountain. And I can tell you, I can reassure you, I have proven that these spirals are talking about these doorways for these spirits that come and go from the mountains, not only around the Valley of the Sun, but chances are in your neck of the woods also. And I think what you really need to do is, I think if you want to start looking for UFOs, find out the history of your area. See what the Native Americans say. Okay, see if there's any petroglyphs in your area. See if there's any rock art in your area. And here's what you want to look for. You want to look for spirals. You want to look for these doorways. Okay, you want to look for these anthropomorphs. You want to look for these quetzalcoatls, these flying snakes in the sky, all these weird-looking shape-shifting anthropomorphs things. Okay, that will tell you that that is a sacred mountain. Okay, and that is a very good clue to watch that mountain during the seasons, because they follow the seasons. They track the sun, they follow the seasons, they come before the equinox, after the equinox, and the solstice, and after the solstice. So they're following the seasons. They're following the energy source, the energy, to absorb. And that's basically what's going on here, is they're tracking the sun, because the Hohokam, the people who first lived here in Phoenix, Arizona, they were sun watchers also. They were sky watchers. They tracked the sun. They watched the sun. I go into this in my book. And they knew when these entities were going to be here, when their gods were going to be here in Phoenix, Arizona, when the Phoenix Lights was going to be here in Phoenix, Arizona. They knew it, they documented it, and all we have to do is go up there on the mountains, watch that sacred mountain for at least a couple years, at least the first year. That first year, if you're faithful, if you're committed to that mountain like I was for 3 years, you will see these things, and you will understand that these things follow a pattern. It's a pattern. They're following the sun, they're following the equinox, following the solstice, they're following the seasons. They're absorbing the energy. Because South Mountain was created by a fault line. Uh-oh. And that's the clue. That's the secret. That's the key. Energy sources around the earth attract these beings from the earth and sky. Now here's another secret I'm going to tell you. Here's another secret. Are you ready? Those of you who have been watching my show already know this. But I'm going to tell you the secret to the people who are just now tuning in. These things are not from Alpha Centauri, not from Mars, okay? This is their planet also. This is their home also. This is their planet. That's what the Native Americans say, okay? That these spirits of the earth and sky, they live here. And every time the world changes, mankind needs these beings of the earth and sky to survive. Much like it was in the time in the beginning. And so it shall be again, because the Hopis say we're in the fourth world, right? We're getting ready to enter the fifth. And this is the reason why we're seeing these things so much, is because they know that pretty soon mankind will need these things once again to survive. Okay, more on that is in my book. I'm not going to get into a lot of that for tonight. Maybe we'll hold that for another show. But yeah, let's look at this petroglyph here. Now, here's a spiral. Now, I've seen spirals. This is made out of rocks. This is pretty cool. I thought this was a real neat picture here. You see that? This is made out of rocks. And what is it doing? It's going, oh wow, look at that. It's going counterclockwise, which means, anyone? Right, doorway out, right. Doorway out. And where's it ending? It's ending on the bottom. So it's talking about the ground there. So they're coming up out of the ground here. So this whole land right here is sacred. Okay? So these entities are coming up out of the ground. That's what this spiral is representing. Now I have found spirals made of rocks on South Mountain. But it's very hard to tell. You know, it's very hard to tell how long those rocks have been actually sitting there on South Mountain in the formation of a spiral. So it could be somebody playing a game, could be somebody who actually knows the doorway, or it could have been left there by the Hohokam. When it comes to rocks like that, you know, we really just don't know if it's been tampered with. You know, if someone's playing a joke, or you know, or if someone, you know, has purposely made this, or in fact the ancient ones has actually put, you know, the rocks in formation of the doorway, letting us know. So yeah, but that's really cool, and that's exactly what it's talking about there. That's a neat glyph. Okay, so this petroglyph here, this one's pretty cool also. So this is an orb, right? This is what we see in the sky today, right? We see this orb. We see this orb in the sky, and what is he doing? He's changing into a man. He's morphing into a man. He's anthropomorphing, right? That's what the archaeologists say, that this is an anthropomorph. So this being, this entity, is changing, right? He's growing a head and he's growing some legs there, right? This is what we're seeing in the skies today. We're seeing these orbs, these lights, these flying serpents, okay, these weird looking things, diamonds in the sky, all right, things that are shape-shifting, they're changing shape, okay, and it's not necessarily a craft. This is not necessarily technology, okay. I was the first one to discover this here in the United States, that these are living beings. These are entities, man. They're conscious, they're alive, they know who's watching, who's not watching, and this is how they're getting away. This is one way of how they're getting away with being in our skies today, is because they're silent, right? They make no noise. They don't cast any shadows, all right? And you won't know that they're there unless you look up. That's the only way you're going to know that something's above you or in the skies, if you look up and pay attention. Now, a lot of people dismiss these things because they have been taught they're looking for spaceships. They're looking for crafts. Okay, and I think it's time for us to start looking for something a little bit different. All right, I was the first one to start this in 2005. I was the first one to bring this to the UFO community. I got ridiculed, I got teased, I got people telling me I'm filming balloons and flares and all kinds of crap, but I stuck with it because I was right, I was correct. I knew what was going on. I successfully connected these beads in the sky to the rock art around the mountains of the Valley of the Sun. And more that I look at the rock art, it not only describes the stuff in Phoenix, but some of the stuff in other parts of the land also, other parts of the United States, and a lot from around the world. Okay, it's the same story. It's talking about the same story. That these beings from the earth and sky came down, and the people living there at that time worshiped these things as gods. Right? They performed sacrifice to these things. Now I found altars. I found altars on South Mountain. All of this can be found within my book. My first book talks about the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona, that backs up what the first park ranger in the 1930s and early 40s talked about. He knew about the tombs, he knew about the altars, he knew about the gold that was left on South Mountain, because the Mayans are supposed to come back and claim the gold that's buried on South Mountain. Okay, all of this is in my book. Now, after his death, after Charles Holbrook's death, all of this information was tucked away in the Phoenix Library, in the government department. And I went in there and I investigated South Mountain. Not only did I hike the mountain, I investigated South Mountain, I watched South Mountain, but I looked in government folders about South Mountain, and this is what I discovered. I discovered Charles Holbrook, the first park ranger, and he knew about the tombs, he knew about the gold. And after his death, everything disappeared. All his work, all his research disappeared and tucked away in the Phoenix government department in a file for 80 years. 80 years, nobody knew about this. I am resurrecting this information. I have proven it. I have proven it. I have found it. I have documented it. I have been on South Mountain. I have photographed it. I have seen the spirits of the earth and sky. I have determined what happened to the Hohokam, because they disappeared, dude. They're gone. We don't know what happened to them. All right, but the petroglyphs tells you what happened to them. The first Native Americans, after this so-called, what happened to them so bit, they know what happened to them. They told Charles. Charles wrote it down. Look up Charles Holbrook. You can find everything. He's very well known in some of the Smithsonian and some of the high official government library departments around the United States. I mean, he was a man back then. Okay, and then after he died, the archaeologist doesn't talk about this stuff. But I do. I proved it. I'm bringing back this information. Boy, I really need to hurry up on this. Okay, this is really cool too. Look at this glyph here. Okay, so we have this type of jack. You see that? You see that entity? It's like a jumping jack, right? It's like 4 orbs, 4 civil spheres. They're connected together, all right? And they're kind of connected with that spiral doorway, right? And those other lines up on top, that represents energy, okay? That represents energy. Now, I was in New York in 2001 when the towers fell. Matter of fact, I saw the smoke from the Twin Towers every morning and every day when I was walking my kid and his friend to school. And so during the no-fly zone, there wasn't anything in the sky but the smoke from the towers. And when one day my son was outside playing, and he comes running to the window, Dad, a UFO. So I go running outside and I look up, and sure enough, what do I see? I see the exact same thing that is depicted here on this rock here. It looked like kids jumping jacks. The ball and the jacks, right? That's what these things look like. They look like jacks. They were 4 silver spheres connected together. They were going counterclockwise, and they had like this cross in the middle. They were connected together. They were going right over our heads. Not very high, just like maybe, give or take, about a half a mile, maybe a mile above us. I mean, it wasn't that high at all. And it went right over our heads, and then to the right, I noticed a silver ball. It had a red tip and a white tail. And it looked like this white orb, was going to merge with these jacks. Okay? And then I lost them in some trees. Now, the kids were amazed. They didn't understand what was going on. I was telling them, look, dude, I've been around for many years, and I've never seen anything like that in the sky. Don't ever forget that. That was something. That was a UFO. That was something in the sky. Lo and behold, when I come back to Phoenix, Arizona, I'm hiking South Mountain, I find the exact same petroglyph. I find the exact same thing. The exact same jacks, if you will, carved on the rocks. And maybe next show I'll show that. But also, if you when you research, like I think it was like Nuremberg, Germany, back in the 15th or the 17th hundreds, there's this art. There's this art. You can search on the internet, and it's an art. It's a painting depicting like all these white and black and orange orbs and these jacks flying in the sky and these flying scrolls, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, That's exactly what was going on here. So they saw it back in Germany. Now, and the Indians saw it. I've seen it, all right, and it's carved everywhere. So these jacks, these flying jacks, are these UFO entities, and they have been with us since the beginning of time. Here we have the old famous Cocopelli. Cocopelli, Cocopelli. Now see what he's doing there? See how he's playing that flute? Now this is significant. Okay, now look what he's carved on. Let's examine that rock here for a sec. See that rock? Now this is significant, okay? Just by noticing what kind of rock that is, this is a lava rock, okay? And there's other petroglyphs, I'm sure, because you can see, that was carved on here, but they were focusing on Cocopelli, this photographer. And so it's lava. So, and what lava comes from? Volcanoes, and volcanoes generate energy, right? They're on fault lines, right? So these volcanoes, these natural energy spots, like volcanoes and fault lines, okay, things like that, are attracted to these entities. These entities feed on this energy from natural sources around the earth, and also man-made sources around the earth, such as nuclear facilities and power plants that are bored down into fault lines. Now, I first witnessed this in 2004. I was filming the Phoenix Lights on the east side of South Mountain. It was right above this power plant that's bored down into that fault line. Now, when I found an old map, when the pioneers first settled here in Phoenix, Arizona, they documented all the Hohokam canals and all the Hohokam hogans and buildings and cities and stuff like that. And it just so happened that where that power plant sits today, bored down into that fault line, was the major city for the Hohokams. The Hohokams were living right there at that energy spot. And this is where I was filming the lights in 2004, right above that power plant, bored down into that fault line, collecting that energy. Okay, so this is a major spot to see these lights. Now, the original 1997 Phoenix Lights, they happen on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona, on the west side of South Mountain. Okay, and there was some video of that we can verify. We did see lights on the west side. There is a fault line. The whole mountain is a fault line, man. But the best areas is on the east side of South Mountain. The west side is younger than the east side of the mountain. All right. And when you look at South Mountain, you can also see the changing. It changes. It's really cool. That mountain doesn't really stay the same. When you're hiking it and walking it, you can tell the difference that it changes. So the older of the mountain is on the east side, and the newer of the mountain is on the west. And this is where the original 1997 Phoenix Lights took place at, was on the west side of South Mountain. So Cocopelli, okay, he's playing music, right? And I did learn that if you play certain sounds on the flute, it has the power to invoke the spirits. And that's exactly what Cocopelli is doing, because he's fluting down, right? He's pointing towards the ground. Most of the Cocopellis that we see, the Cocopellis, their flute is going towards the ground. They're invoking the spirits. They're contacting the UFOs. They're contacting the entities. Okay? And I've learned on how to do this on South Mountain. Not only do flutes and certain sounds invoke these spirits, but certain petroglyphs around South Mountain has the power to invoke the spirits. Now, I found 4 spots on South Mountain where I can go there and I can sit there and I can talk to them. First time was an accident. First time I was like, hey, you guys are cool, why don't you come and see me? The next few days, there comes a flying serpent right out of that canyon where that petroglyph depicting a flying serpent came out of, and he came and saw me, and that was crazy. It was a flying entity. It was a flying serpent. It was a flying snake. Okay? And since then, I found other spots around South Mountain where you can go talk to them. You can invoke the spirits. You can invoke these entities. if you acknowledge them, if you let them know that you're real and you're here to see them, and blah blah blah, they will come and see you. Don't give up. Don't give up. This is 20 years of research, all right? So sometimes you're gonna hit them and sometimes you're not. This is fishing, okay? But it does come in a pattern. And once you figure out that pattern, I'm gonna tell you the secret again. The pattern is when the sun gets aligned with the fall lines, the changing of the seasons. Because when the sun gets in line with these fault lines around the earth in certain spots, Phoenix, Arizona is one of them, it opens up this energy field. It opens up these energy doors. It attracts these spirits. So the spirits will be coming and going from that mountain, these UFOs. These entities will be coming and going from South Mountain for a few months until after the equinox. Now some will still be there, but some will follow the sun elsewhere. So this is why, sometimes we see like a lot of UFOs where we live, and then after the equinox or the solstice, we don't see them anymore. They're gone. Where are they at? They're in Florida. They're in Iraq. They're on some other neck of the world there, But after that equinox or after that solstice, boom, they come right back to that energy spot. Okay, and that's the secret. That is the source on how to see these things in the sky. I verified this for 3 years. The first year I noticed this, I thought it was really cool. It was puzzling, but it was cool. The second year when it happened, it repeated itself. I knew I was onto something. The third time it happened again, that was it. That was the secret. They have been following this pattern for thousands of years. Okay? That's the secret. They're following the energy. They're following the sun. They're following the seasons. They're tracking the equinox and the solstice. And that's exactly what the Indians are talking about. That's exactly what these light and shadow markers consist of when the sun gets in the right position and it's casting these shadows. That's exactly what Stonehenge is talking about when the sun is going up between those blocks, man. They're tracking the spirits. They're tracking the sun. Okay, it has everything to do with these entities in the sky. Okay, so it looks like we're done with the petroglyphs there. So let's take a little short break, and then we'll get into this thing that went over the water, which was pretty cool, and this entity that flew by my window that made video of the day, and it was pretty cool. So let's take a break. We'll be right back.
The Petroglyphsinthesky Ultimate UFO Show with your host, Jeff Warlock.
Have you picked up your Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky? True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix, Volume 1. Learn about the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona. Learn about the petroglyphs carved on the Stigma Mountain, now known as South Mountain, that holds the path to the Phoenix Lights and the UFOs over Phoenix. Pick up your copy today. Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky. True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. Volume 1. Find it on eBay, Barnes & Noble, and any source where books are available at.
right around the corner, too. But here's some entertainment headlines you need to know about.
Now, back live to the newsroom. Here's Mike Chamberlain.
Tonight's video of the day comes to us from South Phoenix. Jeff Woolwine took this home video of something rather odd in the sky. The black object appears to be about 8 a.m. one day last week when it swoops and moves all over his apartment complex, and he lives near 40th Street and Baseline. At first, we thought it was a black plastic bag, but Jeff says that it was the size of a Volkswagen, and it holds its shape the entire time that it is on camera.
Absolutely silent. No heat from it. I think the reason why some people might have not noticed it is because it didn't make any sound. It was very silent. And it was cruising.
So if indeed you know what it is, why don't you visit us on www.azfamily.com and let us know what it is. It's a big mystery over the skies of Phoenix again. Happy birthday to Ted Cobb.
So here's what that entity looked like flying in the sky that flew past me. Let's examine this thing. Okay, so when I first noticed this thing, okay, I saw it in the sky to the right of me. This is like in the morning, right? They love morning times. Okay, at sunrise, all right, this is the best time to see these entities. Okay, sunrise, and then another hot time to see these beings is between like 5:30 is very good, and 6 and 7 o'clock. Okay, so between at least 5 and 5:30. All right, that's like the best time to see these entities in the sky. So when I looked up, because I'm looking out the window, that's South Mountain out there. I'm living within probably about a mile radius of South Mountain. All right, so I'm watching the mountain. Okay. And I looked up and I saw this black-looking spider-looking thing, right? And it was going like kind of clockwise. And then all of a sudden, when I started recording it, when you look at it, and the video will play again. When you look at it, it butts down. It comes down with its butt first, and it swoops right past me. Okay, it swoops. It comes right past me. All right, and as I'm filming it, I lose it in the window sill. Okay, it goes past the window sill. So as I'm moving the camera to get position, because it's going this way. See, it's coming at us. Right, it's coming right past me here. Now it's starting to climb a little bit in the sky. It's changing shape. Okay, so I'm moving the camera now. All right. Now, when I'm doing that, this thing zigzags in front of me. Zigzags in front of me and shoots off over South Mountain. All right. And it twists and it turns. It's in control. It's going over South Mountain. It's heading towards the Australia Mountains. The Australia means star in Spanish. Isn't that interesting? But that's what this thing is doing. Look how it's turning. Look how it's flipping. And when I called News Channel 3 about this, and I was like, hey, this flying spider flew by my window, dude, you gotta see it. And they said, okay, bring in your original tapes. Because Jim Del Toso, down there at Village Labs, wanted to analyze this and wanted to make sure that it was real before they put it on the air. I gave him the tapes. He was so thankful of this. He was like, oh, thank you. They took the tapes. And Jim Del Toso analyzed, and there was other sightings on those tapes that I gave him. So I'm sure he thumbed through them and verified all of them. But this one, he was just at awe at. He didn't know exactly what this thing was. And that's why they decided to air it. They made it video of the day on News Channel 3. Now, look at this. This is in 2005. Okay? So drones was not made available to the public until 2007. Okay, so that's impossible that this thing could be a drone, because everyone's saying, oh, it's a balloon, oh, it's a bag, oh, it's a drone. Well, look at it, okay? This would not have made the news, okay, if this was something that was normal. All right, this is not normal. This is not something that you see every day. This is not a drone. Drones wasn't available to the public back then. This is not a bag. Okay, this is not a balloon. All right, you can see that this thing is in control. Okay, this is a spirit being. All right, now some people might consider this like maybe like a shield. Right? Some might think that this could be a shield. And the petroglyph on South Mountain does depict this type of entity. See that? And there's a guy looking up at it. So some would consider this like to be a flying shield, right? And it's shape shifting. It's shape shifting. Okay, look at this. Look at this entity in the sky. It's changing shape as it goes around. It's in control. It's not a bag. It's not a drone. You know, this thing flew so closely that, you know, if it was technically a drone, then we would have saw the propellers and stuff like that on it, right? And I'm sorry to say, but I've never seen a balloon that has ever resembled this ever in my whole life. Okay? This thing was in control. It's flipping around on each other. It's zigzagging in front of me. Okay? It made the news. All right? It was analyzed by the best in Village Labs, Jim Delatoso, who has analyzed many of my videos. And it's real. This is what we're dealing with here. Okay? Sure, crafts might be out there, but I think what the majority of the people are seeing is entities. Now, some people might say, well, this could be a craft. Well, I really don't think so. I really don't think that this is a spaceship. Okay, I think that this thing is alive. This thing is like some type of, I don't know if you want to say that it's biological, but it's definitely alive. Look at that thing. Look at that. You know, and then when you bring it up, closer, look at that. See that? It actually looks like it's got some kind of like skin to it. Okay? It's got some kind of skin to it. And that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with another living being, another life form. Okay? That's exactly what the Native Americans are trying to tell us with these petroglyphs, with these anthropomorphs. Is what we're dealing with here is a living being, is living entities that shapeshift, that change the shape. And sometimes they look like a serpent, sometimes they look like a diamond, sometimes they look like a human, sometimes they look like this spider. Okay? Now this is interesting too, because the Hopis say that Spider Woman was the entity, that taught the Hopis how to weave their baskets. Spider Woman in the sky, and I think it could be this thing right here, used its web in the sky and taught the Hopis how to weave their baskets in the sky. How to weave their baskets. They watched the thing in the sky. And it's interesting too, because there also is a rock out there. I forget the area now, but it's called Spider Rock. Okay, and Spider Woman is supposed to reside on top of that rock. Now, a story goes that these little Indian kids were running through that valley, and they were chasing this other little Indian boy. All right, and Spider-Woman saw this. Spider-Woman saw this, and he saw that the little Native American boy was getting picked on. So Spider-Woman came down out of the sky. This thing came up out of the sky, picked up that boy, brought him up on top of the rock, and he let him hide there for the other kids to look around, and they couldn't find him. Finally, they gave up. Then Spider-Woman, when the boys left, Spider-Woman then took the kid and he brought him back down on the ground. And Spider-Woman told the little boy, "Go back and tell your people the miracle I have done for you." And that's exactly the story. That is one of the stories of Spider-Woman. On this thing that we could be seeing in the sky right now, that is flying around in our skies right now, that has been carved on South Mountain over 1,000 years ago, and it's still continuing to hang around that mountain to this day. Isn't that crazy? That is something. Okay, so let's get to this entity over the water. All right, so this thing is crazy. Okay, and I'm gonna turn up the volume here so you guys can hear the people in the boat. But this thing is crazy. Okay, and it's not Pikachu. Okay, it's not Pikachu flying over the ocean, because that's what it kind of resembles. But you'll notice that it shape shifts. It's changing shape. It is in control. It is in control. Okay, now this is slowed down. Okay, so that was when it slowed down, and it actually went over. It went over to the other island.
Got it on cam?
Yeah. UFO sighting.
Take a look at this thing.
Over the Atlantic, or over the. This is a UFO
Pacific.
over the Pacific Ocean.
Pacific Ocean.
Right above those buildings there.
Man, it's green. Dude, that's fucking. It's green! It's green! It's coming right over us, man. It's gotta be a
There we
hell.
go. Look how it's moving. Look how it's moving across the sky. Okay, and that guy's got binoculars, dude. He's checking it out. He's watching it.
Can you focus in?
And here's when the camera guy
Barely.
gets a very good view of this thing.
It's fucking green or something.
Oh
Look
my
at that.
god.
Look
that's
at this
not
creature in
fucking...
the sky. This is what we're dealing with here, people. We are
It's not a
dealing with some
helicopter,
type
Dale.
of entity,
That is not a helicopter,
okay,
man.
in our skies.
And I'm looking right at it.
Oh
with
my
binoculars.
god.
And it's all over the world. It's not just, here in Phoenix. It's not just, here in the United States. It's in Mexico.
What the
It's
fuck
look at
is
that thing.
that?
Look how it just changed shape right there. See that?
Oh my
See
god.
that? Look at that entity. Okay? This is what we're dealing with. Look how it's in a straight line. It's got a destination. It's got a point to it.
Man,
Okay?
dude, that's unlike
Look,
anything
it's
I've ever
changing. It
fucking
changed
seen.
shape.
I'm looking
See
through my
that?
binoculars at this thing, and it makes no sound. It's going everywhere.
It's silent, man. It's
changed shape.
silent. It
Silent.
flew by us at Mach speed.
Dude,
Look
what
at this
the
thing.
fuck is that?
Oh my god.
Dude, what the fuck?
And the guys are freaking out. They don't know what it is.
No!
What the fuck is that shit?
And it actually
My name
lands.
is Dave Hoare, and
It
I don't know
goes
what
down.
the fuck that is, man. I've seen shit like nothing like that.
No, it's silent.
Never
It's
seen-
silent.
I love it. I love it when people first see these things, man.
Fucking
Because they're like
God.
tripping out.
Nice.
What is it, right?
That was. It's,
Oh my
it
god.
almost had a
And
focus
this
on
thing
the camera.
actually goes down. It goes down on that island.
Dude, what the
over
fuck
there.
was that?
See that island out there?
Man, what the
I think
fuck
it's
was
either
that?
that one
Oh
or,
my
or that far one out there. So here's a slow version of it, and here's a still photograph. See that? See that thing? That is some crazy stuff, okay? This is what we're dealing with here. I'm not saying spaceships aren't real. Sure, why not? I get it. But I think what the majority of the public has seen are these things that are live. These creatures. These entities. Is that a triple one? Look at that. Look at that thing. It's got like this tail to it, right? And it's not Pikachu, like I said earlier. It may resemble, but this thing is going in a straight line. It's in control, and it's got a purpose. It's going somewhere. Is that crazy or what? That is something. Let's watch it one more time. And that's what we're seeing in the sky. That was during the day. Now, if this thing was filmed at night, if this thing was seen at night, I'm sure it would be glowing like orange or red or white, okay? Because I believe that, like I said before, that they're absorbing the energy, all right? So they're feeding off the energy, and that's the reason why they change colors. That's the reason why they pulsate in the sky, is because it's all that energy that's built up. That's what I think is going on here. Look at that thing. Is that a trip or what? That is something. This is what we're dealing with, folks. So, when you see something kind of weird in the sky, right, make sure you film it, okay? Get it on tape. And, if you guys have some petroglyphs that you want me to look over, and I'll show it on the air here, and we'll talk about the petroglyphs. If you have a sighting that you filmed, send it to me. I'd love to see what you guys have. Like and share this video. Tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends that, hey, man, I found the secret on what's really going on here. And, I have a lot of proof to back me up. I have 20 years investigating not only the Phoenix Lights, but these things in the daytime, too. So, send me your stuff. I'd love to take a look at it. If it's good, if I like it, then we'll air it. We'll talk about it. Give me some detail on it, And send me a letter. Shoot me a letter. Say hi, just tell me that you're enjoying the show and that you like what's going on. So, I'll be right back.
You are watching the Petroglyphs in the Sky Ultimate UFO Show with your host, Jeff Worldwide. UFO sightings that match Native American rock art from long ago. Only on the Petroglyphs in the Sky Ultimate UFO Show. Tell your friends.
Bye-bye, guys. See you next time.
the next exciting episode, keep your eyes in the skies. You never know what you might see.